She said, "Don't call me for 2 days, girls' trip only." Then her best friend asked, "What trip?" So I brought her family to the hotel and uncovered the truth. I never expected the day that changed everything to start with a phone call. My fiancée and I had been together 3 years, both from the same part of the USA, and for most of that time, I trusted her without question. I am 30, and until that week, I believed our plans for the future were real, small promises we repeated to one another. She said she was going on a girls-only club trip. 2 days away with friends, no men, no calls, no disturbance, she told me. She asked me not to call her friends because they would be busy. I accepted it. She packed a small bag, kissed me, and left. That afternoon, I checked my phone more than usual. A few texts, a missed call, nothing worrying. Later, while she was gone, her phone rang on the kitchen counter. It was her best friend. The call came through loud enough that I could hear the voice from the other room. Out of habit, I answered. Her friend sounded confused and asked, "What club trip?" The words hit me hard. I called my fiancé right away. No answer. I sent a message. No reply. An hour passed, and the silence became heavier. I told myself there must be an explanation, but the thought did little to calm the knot in my chest. I stopped pacing and began making plans instead. I called her mother and explained what I had heard. She went quiet, then asked for the friend's name. Within 20 minutes, her father called back. He sounded steady and said he would come over. When they arrived, they moved with a calm that hid their concern. Her mother brought sandwiches wrapped in foil. Her father kept glancing at me and his watch as if checking when the ordinary would end. We decided to go to the hotel my fiancée had mentioned, the one she said was near the club. The ride there was short, but felt long. None of us spoke much. I watched the buildings pass and tried to keep my breathing even. Every red light made my heart speed up. The hotel sat on a strip with a soft neon sign. It looked like any other place that hosts short stays and small celebrations. We checked in, and the clerk typed a few keys without looking up. He nodded toward the corridor and said a room had been used that day. The sound of the computer was oddly normal, and that normalcy only made me feel more certain that something was wrong. We walked down the hallway together. The carpet swallowed our footsteps. Voices floated down the hall, laughter that could be casual, then another voice I did not recognize. My lungs tightened. I signaled the family to stay back and moved closer to one door. For a moment, I thought about turning around and leaving, about pretending I had never heard the call. Then I remembered the way her friend had sounded, the confusion in her tone, and the image of her phone on the counter. That memory steadied me more than anything else. I opened the door without knocking. The room wasn't dark. It looked plain, white sheets. My fiancée stood near the bed, and beside her was a man I had never seen. They both froze mid-conversation when they noticed us. She took a step back as if the floor shifted under her. Her mother walked in behind me, then her father. The man in the room looked at all of us like he had walked into someone else's nightmare. My fiancée's face changed color fast. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. The silence lasted long enough to make the air feel heavy. I didn't shout. I simply said her name and waited for her to explain. She kept looking at the floor, then at the man, then at me, as if searching for something she had misplaced. Her father asked the man who he was. The man said my fiancée had told him she was single and living alone. His voice cracked at the end, and he seemed embarrassed to even be present. Her mother sat down on the edge of the bed, holding her purse close. She seemed hurt, but strangely calm, as if she had already known something was wrong for a while. My fiancée finally said she was sorry, but the words were quiet and empty. She tried to say she needed a break from stress, that she didn't plan for this to happen. Her father raised a hand, stopping her. He wasn't angry. He looked more disappointed than I had ever seen him. He asked her why she lied to everyone, not just me. She didn't respond. Her eyes remained on the blanket, twisting its edge between her fingers. The man she was with stepped farther away from her, realizing what kind of situation he had stepped into. He apologized and left the room quickly. My fiancée reached out toward me. I took a step back. I didn't want to hear excuses right then. I wanted clarity, and nothing she said felt real. She tried to stand closer, but her mother told her to sit down. That moment felt strange. Usually, her parents supported her in everything, but now, they stood with me. Her mother asked if this was the first time. My fiancée didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, she admitted she had met the man a few times before. She kept saying she didn't want to lose me, but her words felt disconnected from her actions. She said she thought keeping both lives separate would make things easier. Hearing that made something inside me finally settle. Whatever relationship we had was no longer the same one I believed in. I told her calmly that I was leaving the room and that she could gather her things later. Her mother looked at me with tired eyes and nodded. Her father placed a hand on my shoulder and guided me out into the hallway. My fiancée followed us toward the door, but her mother told her to stay inside. Once outside, the cold air hit my face and made everything clearer. I knew what I had to do next. Her parents stood beside me and didn't rush me. They understood the weight of the moment without me saying anything. We drove back to my place. They didn't want her to return with us. Her father said she needed time to face what she had done. When we reached my home, he told me to take a day to think, but deep down, I already knew what direction my life was about to go. I woke up early the next morning, not because I slept well, but because my mind wouldn't let me rest. The house felt different without her things scattered around. It was quiet, and for the first time in months, that quiet didn't bother me. It helped me think clearly. Her parents called around 9. They told me she had come home late and barely said a word. She went straight to her old room, avoided everyone, and didn't come out. They also said she tried to blame stress again, but neither of them accepted that excuse this time. They asked if I needed anything. I thanked them and said I was fine, even if I wasn't. A friend of mine, Daniel, stopped by later that morning after hearing the basics of what happened. He didn't push for details. He just sat with me, listened, and helped me see the situation without emotion fogging everything. He reminded me that trust doesn't break in a single moment. It breaks in pieces long before the final lie shows itself. Hearing that made everything settle more firmly in my mind. By the afternoon, my fiancée sent her first message. Just one line, "We need to talk." I didn't respond. I didn't want to argue, and I didn't want her to twist the story before her family fully understood what she'd done. Instead, I decided to document everything. Photos of the hotel, the statement the man gave, the call log showing she ignored me the entire time. Not for revenge, but because I knew she might try to reshape the story later. I didn't want confusion or drama. I wanted the truth to stay clear. That evening, her father came by alone. He didn't look angry. He looked tired, like someone who had carried too much for too long. He said she had admitted everything, but kept trying to paint it as a mistake she didn't mean to let get out of hand. He shook his head, as if even repeating her words frustrated him. He then asked what I planned to do. I took a moment before answering. I told him I wasn't sure yet, but whatever decision I made would be final. No half measures, no pauses, no maybe later. He nodded slowly, respecting the weight behind those words. Before leaving, he said something that stayed with me. Sometimes the people we care about choose a road that forces us to stop walking with them. After he left, I sat at the kitchen table with a notebook and wrote down what I expected from a partner: honesty, responsibility. For simple things. None of them were present in what she had done. Later that night, she called. I let it ring out. She called again, and again. Then she sent a long message saying she wanted to explain things face to face. She said she had panicked when she saw us in the hotel. She said she didn't know how to fix things, but wanted a chance. Every message she sent looked more desperate than the last, but not desperate in a way that showed understanding. Desperate in a way that showed she feared the consequences. I didn't reply. Instead, I began sorting through our shared things. Not angrily, not in a rush. Just calmly organizing what belonged to her and what belonged to me. I placed her items into 2 bags and set them by the door. The act itself felt like a quiet decision forming before I even said the words out loud. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. Another message from her. This time, she wrote that she told her cousins and friends a different version of the story, one where I misunderstood everything. That changed everything for me. She wasn't regretful. She was already rewriting reality to protect herself. And that's when the idea of a clean break wasn't enough anymore. The next morning, I drove to her parents' house with the 2 bags of her things. Her father opened the door before I even knocked. He looked like he hadn't slept either. He stepped aside to let me in, and her mother came from the kitchen with a warm but sad expression. They were kind to me, even though the situation was messy. My fiancée was sitting on the couch, staring at her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were tired, not from crying but from trying to control the story. She asked if we could talk alone. I told her we could talk, but nothing would change the decision I had made. She nodded and followed me outside to the porch. She said she knew she messed up. She said she didn't plan to keep things going with that man. She repeated that she wanted us back. The words came out smoothly, as she had practiced them. What mattered to me wasn't the apology. It was the fact that she had already lied to her friends about the entire situation. She wasn't sorry for the act. She was sorry she got caught. I told her calmly that trust doesn't recover when someone tries to protect themselves before protecting the relationship. She tried to interrupt, but I kept my tone steady and said everything I needed to. I told her we were done, not waiting to figure things out, finished. Her face broke into frustration, not sadness. She said I was overreacting, and that we could handle this like adults. I didn't respond to that. I placed the bags by the door and walked back toward my car. Her mother stepped outside and hugged me for the first time. She whispered that she was sorry for everything. Her father shook my hand, and said he respected my choice. On the drive home, I thought about how she tried to take control of the story. I knew she was still bending the truth with others, and that bothered me more than her cheating. I didn't want revenge to ruin me, but I wasn't going to let lies shape the ending, either. That afternoon, I sent a simple message to a few close friends and to her cousins, the ones she had misled. I didn't insult her. I didn't exaggerate. I only described the facts: the hotel, the man, her silence, her friend's call. I included nothing more than what had already happened. I kept it calm and clear. People responded fast. Some said they were shocked. Others said the signs made sense now. A few apologized to me for believing her version. I didn't need their sympathy, but I did want the truth to stand without distortion. That alone felt stronger than any revenge plan I could have come up with. By evening, her parents called again. They sounded embarrassed and disappointed. Her mother said she confronted her after reading what I sent out. My fiancé apparently tried to deny parts of it until her parents reminded her they were in the hotel room too. The truth had closed in on her from every side. Later that night, she sent me another message. This one was different, short, blunt, and frustrated. She said I ruined her image and that I should have kept everything private. She said I made things bigger than they needed to be. That message ended any last doubt I had. She was thinking about her reputation, not our relationship, not the pain she caused. Her priorities were clear. I blocked her number afterwards, not out of anger, but because I didn't want to hear another excuse or argument. I wanted a clean path forward. The days that followed felt quiet, but not empty. I focused on work, cleaned the house, and settled back into a routine that didn't revolve around checking my phone or wondering if something was off. It was surprising how peaceful life felt once the noise of her lies was gone. Her parents reached out a few times, not to persuade me, but to check if I was doing all right. They were embarrassed by what had happened, and they said things had grown tense at their home. My fiancée avoided them and spent most of her time in her room. She didn't speak much, and when she did, it was mostly about how her friends no longer believed her version of events. Word had spread faster than I expected, not because I wanted to destroy her, but because people who once trusted her deserved clarity. Her cousins, her close friends, even a coworker who had always defended her, all of them now kept their distance. They weren't cruel. They simply didn't want to be involved in something built on dishonesty. About a week later, her father asked if we could meet for coffee. I agreed. When I arrived, he already had a cup in front of him. He told me she finally admitted everything. Not just the hotel, but the messages, the earlier moments she hid, the way she planned the trip, knowing exactly what she was going to do. He said she broke down not out of regret, but because she realized she had lost control of the story. He apologized again on her behalf. I told him he didn't owe me anything. He nodded slowly, then said something that felt like a closing chapter. You gave her respect she didn't return. And sometimes, life pays people back in ways we never have to. After that meeting, I felt lighter. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt, either, not in the same way. The truth had settled, and everyone involved finally saw what really happened. A few days later, I got a long email from her. I opened it because blocking her didn't stop email notifications. She wrote pages of explanations. She said she missed the life we had, that she didn't expect things to fall apart so quickly, that she didn't think her parents would turn against her. She tried to shift the blame, saying she was lonely, confused, and overwhelmed. She tried to make the cheating sound like a moment of weakness instead of the choices she made again and again. She then wrote that she wasn't angry anymore, that she understood why I told the truth to her friends and family. She said she wished things had ended quietly, without embarrassment. She said she hoped I would remember the good parts. I closed the email without replying. Some endings don't need long speeches. They just need distance. Weeks passed, and life became calm again. I started meeting new people, spending time with friends, and joining activities I had ignored for years. I felt present in my own life again. Her parents eventually told me she moved to another city to start fresh. Not for a new job, not for school, but because she didn't want to face the people who knew what happened. That was her karma, not from me, but from her own actions. She had built a life on two stories, and when those stories collided, she had to deal with the fallout.